Agenda today. First up, we're going to go over who we are, who is Medium Giant. Then we're going to talk about what you need to know about GA4, kind of the 101. We're going to identify your next steps. This is really your action plan, and we wanted to build this in a way where you can take action and have next steps for you after you attend this. And then we're going to show you a use case, an example of a company who is making the transition to GA4 and what they need to think about. That will take around 30 to 40 minutes. And then, as I mentioned, we will be answering all your questions. Please just put those questions in the Q&A section, and we'll be hitting all of those questions at the end. So first up, who is Medium Giant? Medium Giant is a media and marketing company. We have a couple different areas here, as you can see, and we help companies navigate, their marketing through a very changing landscape, right? Marketing and advertising is constantly changing, and we help you do that. We begin with intelligence and strategy, uncovering hidden truths, using analytics and reporting, which we're going to go through today to understand more about your customers. We then put together creative and content and then accelerate that marketing with our media and technology. Our commitment to you is to share learnings and to really make sure we are informing you, companies out there. Our clients are on this call, our employees are on this call. And if you're new and you're just hearing about Medium Giant, we're happy to have you. We would ask that you commit by leaning in, paying attention, asking questions, sharing your own knowledge, and together we can build a curious community together. And this is not the last time we'll be having a webinar. We're going to aim for having one of these once a quarter or so, and we'd love to hear from you. What would you love to learn next from us? So today we're going to be talking about analytics. We have extensive experience in analytics. GA4, we have helped 20 plus brands install and bring them up into Google Analytics 4, and that's everything from B2C companies, B2B companies, lead gen, e-commerce. We've helped them all. We are a Google certified partner. We have certifications in Google Analytics, Tag Manager, things like Telium. And then, analytics, there's a ton of different tools. Here's some of the logos you'll see on the right of tools that our team has experience in. And I'll introduce who is going to be talking today. I am Blaine McGaffigan, one of the growth marketers over here at Medium Giant, and I am responsible for helping get our experts who are also on this call in front of you and sharing their knowledge and getting their thought leadership in front of the market, in front of our customers, in front of everybody so we can help learn. So I'll pass it over to Ian.
Hey, I'm Ian Stewart. I head up digital analytics here at Medium Giant. Been doing this for just around a decade now. And I've started sort of paid media. Really love how analytics gives you an opportunity to see performance, and it really ties in not just with paid media, but also with inbound and with digital experience, which is why we have Rachel and Andrew on here. And it creates opportunities just to go and use data to drive decisions. And so I'm excited to talk through how we plan on discussing analytics, a framework for you all to use that, and for you to have kind of starting steps to go and get that, especially with us having less than 100 days before GA4 transitions required. I'll pass to Rachel.
Hey y'all, I am Rachel Maynard. I lead our digital experience team here at Medium Giant, which is our fancy way of saying our UX and web dev teams. That includes any website or landing page work in service of your marketing, your brand, and running your business. What we do is kind of threefold. We evaluate experiences, we build experiences, including all of the design, content production, anything that goes into building a new digital experience or replacing a digital experience. And then we optimize as well. So conversion rate optimization is going to come up throughout this discussion a few times. And that is a really important element of the work that we do in improving performance for our clients. And analytics is a huge piece of being able to do that effectively.
And I'm Andrew Dutcher. I lead the inbound marketing team. Really what that means is I lead the content strategy and SEO teams. I work very, very closely with both Rachel and Ian. And what we do is build impactful growth strategies through content for our clients.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Ian to begin the presentation all about GA4.
Amazing. All right, so we're going to start off, as we discussed, just talking about what you need to know about GA4 and go from there. So let's start off from there. First off, Google is forcing this transition off of Google Analytics 3 or Universal Analytics, might be a term you've heard of, on July 1st of this year. So that is 93 days from today. So fun fact for you also, 3 months exactly. And really, we feel like this is an opportunity for you. So let's talk about just analytics and why analytics. A lot of clients or potential clients have talked to us and said, you know, what's the purpose and reason for analytics? And I'm not going to read this off here, but the key part that I'm going to pull out is it helps you make smarter data-driven decisions to optimize everything you're doing on the internet. So really, the opportunity here is to increase your business, give you opportunities to go and leverage your digital assets well, and ultimately make more money. Find the clients that you're looking for, and really do some powerful things with that. As y'all know, especially being client side, one of the struggles is getting buy-in from upper leadership. That is a big portion of that, especially if you have an organization that is data driven. So for GA4 specifically, we're going to talk about 3 portions. The new data model, we're going to explain this a little bit and help you understand exactly what's the difference. We're going to talk through the new interface, show you some of the differences, some of the strengths, and potentially some of the weaknesses. And then finally, the historical data that you're going to be losing from Universal Analytics or GA3. And we're going to give you some guidelines on which items to go and track. So first things first, what's different about GA3 to GA4? I'm going to talk about a few items, but I want you to really pay attention to the 2 images on the right here. Ultimately, the setup for GA4 is not a turnkey thing. You can go and put a snippet there and it will collect basic items, but it doesn't provide context. I think context is extremely key when we come to data and analytics. So first off, it's not turnkey. Secondly, you have greater flexibility. If you look at this GA3 here, you'll see the custom event hit. And this is really kind of a big key portion. In GA3, all you could do was pull in category, action, and label, and there's kind of a form to that. If we go and take an event over here, and let's take a video event, for example, I can go give context. I can go give this a video name. I can go give it the action that's being taken. So somebody started a video. I can go and even say, like, how long is the video? So if I go and see somebody stops or ends the video, at what point did they stop, right? So you can actually understand when somebody says it was a 90%, was it a 5-second video or was it a minute and a half long, right? There's a big difference between those 2 things. And then finally, you can actually talk through the page URL. So that's a key portion. So you can go and define out these events, which is really important. And finally, it does give you a more complete view of user behaviors across devices and channels. GA4 is extremely powerful in that. And if your organization does have an app, it's actually built off of Firebase, which you may have experience with. Those play together. So both web and app will play really nicely together. Additionally, the GA4 interface is streamlined. I'm going to say something though, because it's streamlined, it is different, right? So there is going to be a steep learning curve. Again, 93 days. That's not a lot of time to learn something that's basically brand new. So if you do have GA4 set up, if you're that 45% or so, the city already have it installed, please go and start using it, because once July 1st hits, you're going to be wondering about your reporting and performance. You're going to have to go to GA4. Secondly, you can adjust it. So this GIF we've got running right here is actually being able to adjust the reporting in GA4 for your business use case. A good example of that would be, I talked to a client recently, and we were just finishing up our GA4 engagement. And ultimately, they are a lead gen B2C business model. And so what that means is, when we came to e-commerce transactions, that doesn't apply to their business. We got rid of those reports instantly because they don't mean anything for them. Whereas if you're an e-commerce business, leads might not mean something to you. So let's make sure we go and have reporting that is very specific to your business use case. And then finally, there are some advanced filtering options. Like I said, it's customizable, but then also there are machine learning powered insights. That's something that I think can be really powerful, especially as Google continues to kind of flesh this product out and make it better and better. And we'll talk about analysis and insights from there. And then finally, your existing data will not be migrated. So this is just to kind of say, if you want to look at year-over-year performance, you're going to need to export some of your data from GA3. We've had a few clients talk about that and ask about that. And really, I think it's a positive thing. It really helps you to kind of boil down what's most important to you, make sure that you're tracking those elements, you're able to answer those questions and do that. Additionally, I see that as kind of a positive shift, right? So again, focusing. I'm a big proponent for understanding what do you want to know, what's useful to know, as opposed to what's just noise, because oftentimes noise will kind of really just ruin the whole system for you and make it easy to go from there. So I'm going to pull on Andrew to come and talk through some of the content and SEO considerations.
Yeah. So what am I excited about? A lot of things, but I think from a content and SEO lens, it's the flexibility. Ian just touched on it a little bit, the flexibility and really understanding how your content is being engaged across the site. So if it's configured correctly, you're going to have far more insight. There's simple metric changes. Going from something like bounce rate, which I think is an archaic type of metric. Sorry if you really love bounce rate. I think it's archaic, right? Moving that into something like engagement rate, which is going to look at multiple factors. Like if they came and they hit the page and bounced off, that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't accomplish what they were after, right? So the flexibility to know, are people watching that video and for how long? If they're not watching that video, is it too long? Or do we actually, 90% of the people are not watching it at all? Should we look to replace that video with content or supplement it with content? Are people reading the content? You know, I think you could do some stuff, some custom stuff to understand scroll depth, but like, are they spending enough time on the article? Are they scrolling down far enough? Do we need to reorient the content to showcase the most important stuff at the top? And then I think the last thing I'll say is that from an SEO perspective, not all traffic coming to the site should be considered equal. They're not judged. They shouldn't be judged on the same type of conversion metrics. And so say you've got a blog, it's not fair to judge the efficacy of that blog on whether it's like converting into pipeline or transactions, because that's not what it's meant to do. So understanding how people are engaging with that content and consuming it is actually the thing that we want to see most out of that particular blog. If it's a product page, we might want to think about it differently, right? So those are some of the things that I'm excited about.
From a CRO perspective, some of you may or may not realize Google Optimize, the A/B testing tool offered by Google, is actually being deprecated later this year. But Google has announced that they're going to build in CRO and A/B testing functionality into GA4 in the future. Unfortunately, we don't have a good roadmap about when we can expect that, or really what that's going to look and feel like in any way. But I'm still very hopeful that it's going to be a very good thing. Also, it's going to be easier to play with our third-party CRO tools like VWO and Optimizely with GA4. And then Andrew was really speaking to this as well, but the context that Ian was talking about that we're going to have a lot more of with GA4 data is just going to make it so much more valuable for making decisions based on user behaviors in order to optimize and improve these digital experiences. So I think it's all good things.
Yeah, and that's kind of our takeaway from this section is really like, this is not in isolation. GA4 is going to touch all sides of your marketing and business. Some of the considerations I have for you on the right here is just make sure you're connecting your Google ads to your new GA4 property, right? Some of these things are just make sure you have these done. Import your new goals and leverage them in your campaigns so that your attribution is right on, but also know that the attribution will be changing a little bit. It is moving from GA3 to GA4. Obviously, that's what we're talking about today. So we'll kind of continue going, and we'll touch on a couple of these as we continue into the next step.
Awesome, thanks all. So here's how to identify your kind of next step. So I'm gonna propose something. This is going to take a little bit of conceptual thought, but we're gonna try to kind of do this all together. So I want to introduce a model which is called the analytics maturity model. We did not make this here at Medium Giant. We did make this graphic, but the actual concept is actually a pretty well-known concept. And I want everybody to kind of look at this kind of process and start to understand a little bit. I want to call this out very clearly. Every business should not be a level 5 on this. Okay, really, depending on your business use case, you might be a level 2 or a level 3. I'd recommend everybody be at least a level 2. Not having analytics, it's a weakness, not a strength. But you might only ever need to know descriptive analytics, and that might be because of level of investment, just ability to pull in resources, that sort of stuff. We're going to come through in this. As you can kind of see with the two axes, on the left here, you're going to have data, amount of data being used, and on the bottom, you've got the role of analytics in your decision making. So as you go further into this, the higher this becomes. So just note that. So we're going to talk to these 5 models fairly quickly. I'm going to focus mostly on levels 2 and 3 because I believe for the organizations on here, that's where you'll find yourselves or where you'll want to be shooting for. So first and foremost, no analytics. We'll make sure to actually be sharing this out as well. But really the questions you're asking is our website up and running? And is the website making us money? It's very basic. Really, you're just trying to make sure, hey, is this digital asset that we have that we're spending money on, is it worth it? That's really your question. Level 2 is this descriptive analytics. And really the question you're asking is what happened? So this is a historical look back approach, right? And so dedicated resources on the right here, you might have a part-time resource. You'll typically have a low budget for your analytics, and your marketing goals are going to be increasing traffic to your website and growing your business by X amount, right? So really understanding just kind of that basic level of, okay, here's where the website plays in our org, and be able to understand that. We've got some technology stack. It's pretty basic on the right here. And the questions you're asking are, where's our site traffic coming from? What are the best converting campaigns? And then what is the ROI on our paid media efforts? Again, fairly left to right here. Here's exactly what's happened. We went and spent money. What was the result? That's really the question you're asking here. And a lot of you will probably feel yourselves that you're here. You might say, well, we feel like we've got more resources. But I urge everybody on the call, really stop and be honest with where you're on this curve and also where you'd like to be on this model. Level 3 is diagnostics, which is why did it happen? So not just historical all the way, but also we still did this. What was the cause, right? So these are questions like what updates to our site should we be testing in terms of like A/B testing? So should we go and change a header or a button, that sort of thing? You're asking which campaigns and ads are giving the highest ROI. And then really, how is the marketing performance when you kind of look at different attribution models? This is when you're looking at something that's not just last click, but it might be position based. You might have a time lag of some kind. You're really trying to understand a little bit further into that. With that, you typically have 1 to 3 part-time resources, or at least a full-time resource is the best way to say this, a mid-sized budget. And that budget's going to be going not only to those resources, but also to the technology stack below that you see with like a CRM, tag manager, A/B testing. So you'll have a tool, something similar to what Rachel mentioned, whether that's BWO or Optimizely, something to be able to kind of do those tests, see if there's statistical significance, and see if there's an opportunity. And then you're going to be looking at this through the lens of your goals, which are you're increasing qualified traffic, and qualified is the key word here, growing your business by X percentage, and you're using marketing channels X, Y, and Z, which means you've spent money in marketing and you know which ones work, right? So at this point, you've been able to do the analysis, understand what's working, and then you're looking to expand into additional marketing channels to improve your ROI. So TikTok a few years back was the hot thing. It's still pretty hot, but everybody wanted in on it. All right, so we're going to go invest this amount of money and this amount of time into this channel to go see if it's an opportunity, right? And then how do you go and check if it's an opportunity? Well, we went and did it. What are our analytics saying about that? It becomes that feedback loop of process. So like I said, a lot of the people here, you're going to find yourself in 2 or 3. We're going to go through 4 or 5 fairly quickly, but again, take an honest look and say kind of where does it feel like our organization is.
Hey, Ian, let me stop you because there's a question here that I think was applicable to that last slide. Somebody asked, can you quantify mid-sized budget as it relates to analytics maturity model? So this is level 3 mid-sized budget.
Yeah, so mid-size, I think, is in terms of like percentage. So if this is a tough one because for most organizations in the space, the marketing budget is partially analytics budget, right? Typically at this spot. So it's not usually there's an analytics budget and a marketing budget. And so my question back to whoever asked that question is specifically, how many resources do you have? And in terms of technology stack, what are y'all leveraging, right? So if you've got a CRM, if you're doing A/B testing and you're doing that consistently, and you've got enough traffic, because I think this is a key portion too, in order to do some of these testing, you need the traffic to actually get statistical significance to where it actually makes sense. This did or didn't win. That's also the part, right? So I'd love to hear from you, whether that's outside of here or via LinkedIn. Please reach out. But like I think it really depends on your business use case. If you're making 50 million annual revenue and you guys are investing in a single resource, probably not the right, you're not at a mid-sized budget. If you've got a few people that are kind of in this space helping with the analytics, you're probably in diagnostic, maybe with a shade into level 4. I think that's the best way to answer that. So I know those are a little roundabout. I'm sorry for that. I don't know your business, and so it's really hard for me to answer that question for you.
Yeah, well, and I would say, as with anything, and there may be a couple of instances where we may not be able to give you a direct answer. I just want to encourage everybody to link up with us on LinkedIn too. Ian will be happy, I'm volunteering you. Ian will be happy to hop on, set up some time to because as with anything, all these things could be complex use cases or different use cases depending on technology, where you're at in your organization's maturity model. So definitely feel free to message us after too.
Absolutely. All right, level 4. So level 4 is predictive analytics. And so now we're going from a historical things that happen. Now let's see the results to a proactive, predictive kind of approach. So predictive analytics, what will happen? And so really this is projections, right? Understanding what's going to happen here. At this point, I'm going to say for level 4 and 5, at this point, you own your data. You've got at least a person, if not more than one person that owns your data, and that's their job. That's their only job, making sure you've got your database up and running. So as you can see in the tech stack, you'll have a database. You might have a customer data platform, which is a specialized database, mostly meant for marketing. And then you've got additional things like you might be leveraging multivariate testing, which is, again, you've got people that are running those things as a full-time job. So at this point, you've got a team of analysts that are playing in there. We say mid to high budget, but as somebody called out on the last one, that's variant depending on your organization. Your marketing goals are going to be improving user experience, and you're usually using something like personalization based off of visitor type and location to make that really specific to that visitor, so that they feel not only special, but also like that what they're looking for. How do you kind of help close that loop and make your website work better for them? You have goals set by marketing channels. So this is tied to an annual goal for the company. And you've got very clear, like, we're spending this much in these areas and this is what we expect to get out of that. So you've got a very quantifiable amount of performance based off of each of those channels. And at least 10% of your marketing budget is earmarked for testing. So that means which marketing channels are no longer profitable to push on for incrementality. You've gone and kind of pushed out and you said, all right, so our direct response, maybe paid search, is working really well, not getting stuck there. So questions here: what updates to our website should we test using multivariate testing as opposed to A and B? What's the lifetime value of our marketing efforts? So this is a good example. We actually talked through during our run through. Starbucks knows exactly what their lifetime value of their customers is. It's $15,000. And Andrew was actually asking questions and saying, "Is that right?" And he started
doing some quick math. I was like, "Yeah, that checks out." Yeah,
exactly right. So that's something that, like, what your customer is worth, especially if they're coming back multiple times. See Starbucks. And then finally, what are your higher funnel efforts? Are they driving those results? So this is, again, looking through different attribution models, understanding what that view looks like. And then finally, level 5, I want to be really clear on this. This is bleeding edge. This is an org that has multiple teams of analysts, an extremely high budget. It's usually in a market where it's extremely competitive, and they're typically one of the top market share providers in that space at the same time, right? They've got money to go and not burn, but to go find new opportunities, right? And so we've got added to the technology stack machine learning, which means, again, you've got good data, because garbage in, garbage out is a real thing, people. And then marketing goals, really we're talking through improving user experience. And so that's using machine learning solutions on top of that personalization, which is usually tied to your CRM, able to identify your users. Your conversation around the company goals isn't what needs to happen, but rather what could happen. So this becomes a conversation where, hey, I need to go get budget to go do this. Here's what I'm expecting as a result. Because now you've went from predictive to prescriptive, you're able to go and project, hey, we expect to see these results, and really provide that conversation. And then you're leveraging technology, which have clearly defined large scale marketing tests with at least $10,000 behind each test. So, and you're running at least 50 of these a year. So that's napkin math. That's $500,000 as the floor. So 500,000 in just in testing by itself. So if that's not happening, you're not in this space, that's okay. Because again, maybe that's not the best solution for your business. Questions here, you're asking kind of which additional user flow should we develop and test? Really doing some additional dev work there. What opportunities are available for offline improvement to our sales process? So levels 4 and 5, you'll typically have business analytics tied into this as well, just as a key piece. And then what opportunities are machine learning tools calling out? And so this is a call out for everybody here, including on GA4. Machine learning is extremely powerful. Everybody's heard about ChatGPT. If you haven't gone and played with it for 15 minutes, connect with Blaine. He will give you a full book on it and really help you understand what to do with that. But ultimately, really, it's a powerful thing. As we've seen, it does need people that know what they're doing alongside of it for now, at least. And so that this can help us find new opportunities, but let's go use some logic and some testing to see if the call outs actually make sense.
All right. So this is where we want you to get involved, and we're going to launch a poll. I'm launching it right now. And I want you to, look inside and ask yourself, where are you on the analytics maturity model? It should be appearing on your screen. Remember, the goal is not for everyone to get at 5, to be at 5. You always want to be getting a little bit more, advanced. You do want to be using your data and thinking about it. But as Ian mentioned, it's okay, perfectly normal to be at 2 or 3. We just want to help you and make sure that you are getting the most out of your analytics and you're using data to inform your marketing. So we'll give you 30 more seconds to get those in. One question I got while we're kind of waiting, Ian, anybody, is, will any of these new tools be free? We're talking about GA4. Will any of these new tools be free?
Actually, so are we talking new tools in terms of GA3? It's GA4.
Will GA4 be free? I'll just rephrase that. Will GA4 be free?
Yeah, GA4 is free. They do have a hit limit. If you're doing well over a million visitors a month, we should have a conversation. But anything below that, you should be perfectly fine. And Google's actually made their model pretty nice for free users, in my opinion. They've got some aspects that they've kind of hidden behind paywalls, just like everything happens, right? We're very used to that, but it's an extremely powerful free product as it is.
All right, I'm ending the poll and sharing the results, and you'll love to see it. This is kind of what we expected. People with no analytics, let's get you up to speed here. We gotta get you to level 2. And 44% of people said they are at level 2 descriptive analytics, and then it tapers down from there. Level 2 and 3 is great, and seeing 9 people with number 4 predictive analytics, and even 2 of you up there in the 5 prescriptive analytics, that is great. So thanks for that. We'll continue the presentation. We're going to kind of get into using a use case and example. So let's keep it going.
Awesome. So just a reminder for everybody, we really do believe this transition to GA4 is a chance for you to level up. It gives you a chance to go and look at your website and understand, what do I need to answer in terms of questions here? So we're going to actually talk through a use case in which we're going to help a company level up. It's an imaginary company. We're not associated with this company in any way, but it's a fun one. So I ask everybody to suspend disbelief for just 10 more minutes, and let's definitely enjoy this story. So here's our use case.
All right. I have the pleasure of introducing Jack and the Magic Beanery. This is my friend, Jack Spriggins. He's the owner and operator of the Magic Beanery. You go, Jack Spriggins. So his business sells magic beans that actually produce money trees. We should all be so lucky. At the moment, this is a B2C lead gen focused business. So the way Jack is transacting with his customers is they're going to the website, they're interested in the product, they're submitting a lead, and a call center is fulfilling those purchases. He's at a level 3 right now, diagnostic analytics. So he's asking, why did it happen?
So let's talk through the 5 steps we're going to recommend you go through. These are the steps we also do with our customers along the process. So first one is just identify the questions, figuring out what you need to answer. So we've already touched on this some, but it's really important to understand from these current angles of conversion rate, your marketing ROI, your campaign performance, and your attribution. How are things performing, right? So for Jack specifically, some questions he might be asking are, which websites, which pages actually have the highest conversion rate? So somebody lands on it or interact with this, and that leads to them going and actually calling the call center and closing a sale. Which campaigns and ads are giving the highest ROI? So you're understanding how people are getting there, the performance tied to that dollar, those dollars that are actually being spent to get people to the website and close them finally. And then finally, what's your marketing performance looking like when you look at these different attribution models? So we talked about this for level 3, but this is a key example where understanding, hey, maybe upper funnel, maybe social, or just awareness plays are actually leading to lower funnel activities, right? And that's a hard thing to quantify initially. GA4 helps with that in a lot of ways. So we do have a resource that's tied to this that we're going to be including in our toolkit that we're going to share after this webinar. We're excited to share that with you. But really, the way we do this internally with clients is we have an hour-long meeting, go through their website, ask questions about their business use case, and make sure we're not missing any details. Because if we are, obviously we need to make sure we answer those questions. So this gives us a chance to really go and dig in and understand as we go and do this, what the performance, what the questions that are being asked that we need to answer. So next to that, we go and recommend, hey, let's go save off data from GA3. So we've got some clients that we're having these conversations with now. In fact, some of them might be on this call right now saying, all right, let's go do this. We need some data. But really, the questions that are being asked are really things like sessions or visitors in the last month split by marketing channel. So how's marketing performing in terms of traffic? What's the potential revenue? So let's assume a value of a lead's about $5,000 for Jack and his beanery. What's the potential revenue, right? So we've had X number of leads. We expect that that's worth a certain amount based off of the rate at which people convert. The number of monthly leads. So again, we're talking about that in terms of your marketing channels, and then conversion rate by marketing channel. And so people might be looking at percent change at month over month. You know, maybe paid search hasn't performed as we expected last month. What's the cause? So this kind of gets you a spot to go and say, hey, let's go figure this out. As a note, level 3, like Jack's Beanery, you have people that are doing analysis on performance, whether that's your agency or that's somebody internally. You are looking at performance and saying, all right, what's causing this not to work? So then you get a positive feedback loop of opportunity to go and improve either places where things aren't performing, or maybe something's overperforming. Why is that happening? So for you, questions you're asking for context are, what are key stakeholders in my organization asking when they're looking at historical performance? You're also looking at saying, what kind of analysis are we applying to our current data? So like I said, Jack and his beanery, they definitely are asking questions about this, where specific campaigns that are performing and all that. Do you have any benchmarks on performance? How you define if a campaign is performing well or not well? That might be a question to ask, or just all up. We expect X number of leads in a certain time period. Are we getting that? So these are the benchmarks to kind of keep in mind. And then finally, does seasonality impact our business? For Jack, it does, because he doesn't sell very many at the end of summer, right? Heading into fall and the spring or in winter. But in winter, he starts selling a whole bunch of them because people are getting them into their greenhouses and they're going to start making those money trees. On the right here, we've got an example of a first, second, and third export. Note that you cannot export everything that you need to answer these questions in one export. It's one of the reasons that when we've talked with clients, we need to really define what you need, because otherwise, if you go and say everything, it's kind of the old, if everything's a fire, nothing's a fire. If everything's data that's useful to you, nothing's useful to you. It's the same concept. Not saying that you don't have specific things, but like, let's identify the questions and work backwards to the data that needs to answer those questions. That helps a lot when you're setting up GA4 as well. All right, step 3 is identifying and implementing your most valuable events. So this is really key. So for Jack, we really cared about his conversions, which are form fills, newsletter signups, and he's got spec sheets on these beans, basically number of beans per bag, weight per bean, expected height of tree when it grows out with, right? So those spec sheets are important because people want to know, is this working, right? So this gives them a really key idea of who's interested and who's actually going to go purchase. Micro conversions are going to be things like key page views, maybe somebody's starting a multi-step form to get their information into you, or entering a conversion funnel, right? So understanding that portion. High value activities are going to be things like watching videos, any button clicks that are key callouts, such as maybe sign up here. Let's say this wasn't tied to a newsletter sign up, but something else. Buy now is a good example of that. All of those are good examples. Things like site search are really key. Those can be used really well by Andrew and Rachel and their teams to be able to go and say, hey, should we build more content? Should we build out new pages for this area? Let's go and test that. That creates an opportunity. Social platform clicks, such as this one. And we'll talk through an example for this one here. And then offsite clicks. So we've got some tourism clients that we've worked with in the past. And they really want to know, who are we sending traffic back to? Maybe we need to build partnerships with those people. So this creates that opportunity to have that conversation, and you have data to lead to that conversation, which is really key. And then finally, high count events, whether that's the header and footer, just understanding how people are getting to pages through your site. So an example here is your social buttons here on the website footer. So we expect this on all pages, right? Because footers exist everywhere. Event name here would be footer click, and we talked about this already, but there's an event name with GA4 and then parameters, as opposed to that old event category action label approach. So we went and built out some parameters here. So click text, we want to go and know, is it going to LinkedIn? Is it going to Facebook? Or are they going to Instagram? And we've got a key variable that would actually grab that and make this work all the way across the board. Click URL, so we get the full URL here, just in case that were to change, anything like that. Click area, so we're calling out that this is the footer. And then we're saying that the click detail around this is social. So there's a strength and some difficulty here. And I'm going to call this out really fast. These are all custom parameters, things that we've defined with Jack and his beanery. And we definitely want to help him understand what's happening. But now, because we're out of that event category action label framework and things are more flexible, this can get confusing. So this is something that I want to call it really key, like really keenly. Be cautious if you're doing this yourself. Make sure you've got an idea of what the framework is. We actually go and build a full audit doc and say, hey, here's what our implementation is going to be. And we talk through it. So this is stripped right from one of ours, and we actually define out the trigger as we go and do that. And then we go and have a call, talk through this for an hour and say, hey, here's what we're proposing. Are we missing anything? We want to make sure we've got everything covered and make sure everybody understands what the intent is, what the goal is. And that's informed by identifying our questions. So step 4 is then going and connecting all the marketing channels to Google Analytics 4. So obviously Google sources are the first one to go and do. So Google Ads, Google Search Console, and Google Business Profile. Andrew Dutcher loves Search Console and Business Profile and being able to pull that data in because it helps really inform him and his team on what's occurring. So that's key. In addition, and I'd say this would be, this is 1A in terms of Google sources. UTM tagging is 1B, because source, medium, campaign are extremely important to have in your tagging. Make sure that that's up and doing it. If you don't have that, you're going to get a referral link most likely, where somebody came from Facebook you didn't tag it. And so you don't know if it's Facebook paid, you don't know if it's Facebook organic. You need to know those things because it helps answer those questions. You can also add in terms like term and content. If you don't understand this, please reach out to us. We can give you a quick resource, and we'll be actually be including the resources to help kind of guide you on this. And then this is kind of a level 3 into level 4 piece, which is connecting your first party data. If you have a CRM, if you have a database, if you can, make sure to join this in, whether that's going to be directly into Google Analytics or pulling Google Analytics out and joining it with your data. That's going to be extremely important for you to understand your performance. And then finally, step 5. We've done 4 steps, and these have not been easy ones. Step 5 is going in optimizing your marketing. So for Jack, he knows that this hard work isn't going to do him any good if he just does it, right? So he wants to go and learn and improve in order to grow this business. So he wants to go and test to identify areas of improvement. He wants to go analyze that performance of marketing channels, campaigns, and ads through that lens of multi-attribution models, and GA4 makes that extremely easy. And then you want to optimize his website over using CRO over this time to improve the conversion rates, because marketing is just a portion of it. Once they get to your site, they still have to close. So making sure you have that feedback loop where you go identify low-hanging fruit, go and optimize it, grow it, that's key. And that's something that we love to do here at Medium Giant with our clients. So this is your aha moment. This is the whole reason you're investing in analytics, is so you can inform, you can have those informed business decisions that can really help your organization grow and flourish just like these beans.
All right, so Ian just covered a lot in those 5 steps. We want to help arm y'all with even more resources. So as part of our follow-up, we're going to be providing you a toolkit that essentially provides resources that align with each of those 5 steps. So everything Ian talked about and then some, so you can look forward to that.
And if you're interested in learning more about how we can help, obviously we just talked a lot about GA4 migrations. There's a timetable to that. We've been assisting a lot of our existing clients in this migration. We're well suited to do it. So reach out to us, in the next 90 days if you need help with that. Just more broadly, we also work on a project basis. If your data is a hot mess, if you know your GA is a hot mess, come in and let us audit it. We do this day in and day night. We do audits and implementation. So we can help you get up to speed. We can help you make sure you're tracking the right things, and we can make sure we get it all implemented properly. And lastly, if you find yourself somewhere on this analytics maturity model and you're looking to elevate yourself, we love long-term analytics partnerships. So we're happy to be that long-term partner and that long-term resource for you.
So we're going to get into the Q&A next, but there was a lot of information there. We will be following up, but if you have 3 takeaways, let it be these. July 1st, that's 93 days, you are going to be forced to transition to Google Analytics 4. This is a lot of information. It can be complicated, but number 2, it is worth it. This is a great opportunity to do a refresh. If you feel your analytics is maybe not up to snuff, now is the perfect time for a clean slate, a fresh start. And number 3, we're going to send out that toolkit. Analytics, you don't just set it up. It needs to be linked to your marketing objectives, to your business objectives. And we're going to be sending that list of key questions that you need to ask yourself so that you can set up GA4 the right way. So let's get over to the Q&A. We've seen some questions come in. I'm going to be posing a couple of these questions, then I'll invite Lance to also ask questions. And I'll ask you, Ian, to, you can remove your screen share there and we can see our faces as we do this. So first up, we have a question, and it is from Chris. He says, if we have existing things set up in Google Tag Manager, do we need to reset those for GA4?
Yeah, and the answer to that is yes. So if you're talking about Universal Analytics or GA3, then you absolutely need to re-update that and do it for GA4. And do it with the new framework where you're creating your own parameters, right? So it is a little involved to be able to go and do that process. But once you understand what that looks like, it's fairly quick. And so, yes, if you're talking about for GA3 to GA4, now if you're talking about marketing pixels, that kind of stuff. No, those already are true. As long as you haven't changed anything on your website that would cause those triggers to fire off those tags, you're good to go.
Blaine, you're
Another
muted.
question we have, and this is, if you inherited an old GA setup, should you go off of that to set up GA4 or start clean?
It's a great question. So we've done both. We actually audit your GA3 and use it to inform the GA4 process, but we do treat GA4 as a brand new one for a couple of reasons. One, GA3 and GA4 are not the same tool. Yes, they're both Google. Yes, they have a lot of similarities, but they're not the same. And I think that's key for everybody to understand, especially when you're pulling data from historical and doing that for comparisons. But I will say that there is there's portions of your current one you'll probably want to keep.
And then this is in regards to one of the slides where we were talking about Jack and the Beanery connecting, and we showed all the Google properties that we wanted to connect. And this person asked, in that step 4, do you connect your social media? Where do you connect your other things? It was like in the second box. How do you connect those properties things?
Yeah, that's just your UTM tagging. So making sure you have that updated correctly, that'll feed in correctly. And Google has a plethora of information to help you understand how best to do that.
There was a question that came through the chat from Dan. Ian, what about auto tagging from AdWords? Does that still work in GA4?
Auto tagging from AdWords does work. I do not believe they've yet have an option to choose which one to do, Dan, whether you want the auto tagging to override UTM parameters or not. Obviously, I always recommend to do both, but if you have auto tagging set up, it'll work in GA4. We've seen that for clients already.
Great. There's another one here. If we have GA connected to Looker or Data Studio, as I still will call it for the next 3 or 4 months, for reporting purposes, we need to reconnect our dashboards to GA4, the new GA4 instance.
You will, and you'll probably have to do some configurations because you'll have new data and it won't be under that event category action label mold.
Got a question here from Jessica. Are there any changes to reports? Will we have to recreate those reports in GA4?
Yeah, so there are definitely changes. We were actually having this conversation earlier. So my recommendation is identify what you want to answer and then see if that's either available already in the reports or if you need to use the Explore tab, which is available in GA4. And that's similar to like the custom reports that you had in GA3. And so you'll want to identify exactly what your questions are from there. And so you will have to recreate it though. And then note that you won't have your GA3 data in there for any historical.
Excellent. All right, so those are a lot of the live questions. Again, please keep them coming. We got some questions via form whenever we had people sign up. Lance, I have you there if you want to ask some of those questions that we got over the form.
Sure. So we have some sort of FAQ style questions. Some of these things we may have touched on, but if you guys want to take an opportunity to just sort of round out some of those responses. Number one would be, what are the top things marketers are currently depending on with GA3 that are going to be different with GA4?
I think Jessica's question about the reporting touches on it really hard, just understanding that portion. So like I said, 93 days, get in there and start messing around with it, start understanding where those reports are at, because nothing will be worse than the end of July and you better go pull a report for how July performed and you can't. That's going to be a key portion.
Yeah, the interface might be a little bit jarring at first, just because it's different, not because it's bad. It's actually great. As much as we love innovation, humans hate change. So like, it's going to be a little uncomfortable at first. So yeah, I heed Ian's recommendation there and get in there and get comfortable sooner rather than later.
It's kind of like whenever Facebook would completely redo the UI like every 2 years and we get like a wave of backlash, but after about 6 months, you're like, actually, this is kind of better.
Very nice.
True.
Awesome. Okay, so what about my customers? So the folks that use my website, are they going to see any difference between GA3 and GA4?
I can speak to that. Your end user is not going to notice any difference that you're using GA4 versus GA3. However, I'll spin that and say, what we can do with the more contextual, more valuable insight we're able to gain from GA4, in theory, we should be reshaping that experience for that user in an optimized way by using that data. So in that way, yes, it could have an impact to your customer, a very positive way.
And sort of in a related sense, anything else you want to say to round out the conversation around CRO? So how does GA4 affect or impact my CRO, and how can I really best utilize GA4 to have a positive impact or an increase?
And what is CRO?
CRO
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's jargon.
CRO's conversion rate optimization. We touched on it a little bit earlier in the presentation. That is really using your data, using your learnings to improve the experience for your customers. A/B testing and multivariate testing came up earlier. Those are both very popular tactics for optimizing an experience. So remind me what the main question was, Lance.
Just a general question around, I'm going to not use jargon, conversion rate optimization, and any additional impacts from GA4 that you'd want to just touch on.
Okay. I've said already over and over again, like, you can use the data to improve the experience. The data is only going to be as good as the way you plan for it and set it up. So, Ian went through some detail about how to set up these events in a way that the context is relevant and valuable to us as we're analyzing it. That is key. If we don't have that, it's not going to do us any better than just, making guesses on users' behaviors or what they're looking for.
Awesome. Also, we know that cookies aren't fully going away until after the GA4 forced transition on July 4th. So will we see an impact to reporting once cookies truly go away, or will it be seamless?
Cookies are going to impact us. Cookies are going to impact everybody. That's the easiest way to put that. There are proposed solutions out there currently. Nothing has been accepted and adopted as of yet. And so in a lot of ways, we're waiting to kind of see what gets agreed upon, especially when you talk about from an international perspective, because if just the US does one, and then Canada, and then Europe, everybody does their own version, it's going to be difficult. And so we have to kind of see how that goes. Browsers have been leading the way on that. And so in a lot of ways, cookies have been impacted over the last 5 years pretty strongly. Just people haven't noticed it. So that's one reason that, and if anyone on here has worked with me, they'll have heard this already. Use sessions, don't use users, because users, the definition of that's been changing and will continue to change to the point where for a while it'll be a less relevant term than we'd like it to be.
I have a time check.
I would can I just add in, regardless, it's a really good time, if you haven't, to start actively developing a strategy to grow your first party data. So, that's something that Rachel and I work on all the time. How can you drive people into sort of an owned environment and build that owned audience? You can use that data in all sorts of different ways, which can help you eventually get the same type of targeting that you may have had before. You can do all kinds of remarketing with it. The power of building an owned audience is owning one rather than renting has never been more important and won't be moving forward. So if you haven't started doing that, you should do that.
Excellent. And we have 2 minutes left. We don't want to keep you. I'm going to ask one more question that was in the Q&A. Thank you so much for attending. Will there be further training on how to transition our current reports from GA3 to GA4? We will be sending out that email with a couple toolkit items. We'll be also packaging this up as a recording. We hope to continue creating leadership, thought leadership, and info around GA4. So yeah, let's aim for that team. The question here though is, if we switch to GA4, will we be able to toggle back to GA3?
I'm going to read between the lines a little bit on this one. It sounds like the ask is the interface that's in GA4, are you going to be able to switch back to GA3? And the answer is no, not in GA4. If your question is, can I go back to GA3 and see my data? The answer is yes. They will not be removing your access as of July 1st, but it will stop collecting as of July 1st. So there's a key difference there. That being said, Google hasn't said how long that data will be available for, which is why I'm of the opinion, go and have a plan in place, go and pull that data out, and then leave GA3 alone, because you've already got a new platform to go learn. Going back to the old is not going to help you with the new. So that's my opinion.
And with that, we will wrap it up. We want to thank you so much for attending. Look for your email inbox. There's going to be an email hitting you with this recording and some goodies for you, a blog, things like that. So thanks for attending. Thanks for all of your questions. Follow Medium Giant for future webinars, and we love your feedback. And that's going to wrap it up. Y'all have a good Thursday. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thanks all.
Bye everyone.
Bye.